Hi there, and welcome to Filth Weaver. So I wanted to kind of bring you into this world a little bit more and tell you about some of the mythologies around Filth Weaver and how Filth Weaver came to be. So it started a very long time ago, before colonization, before the Aztec Empire, and with the Toltecs in Mexico, some of my ancestors, likely, and with a lot of the Tlaxcalans that immigrated up north. And there's a whole story filled with like violence and grief and aspiration in that. And I don't know if I'll go into that right now, but there is a Toltec astrology system, and I got a Toltec astrology reading, and it said that my nighttime deity is Tlazolteotl, who is this filth eater whose lips and mouth is covered in black, and who eats the sin and the filth and of the world, of the people. And this imagery stuck to me and it's also happening at nighttime, where like the shadows come out, where the filth hides. And so yeah, this imagery stuck to me, and this being, deity, their character stuck with me. And as I developed my crafting practice around reusing and reworking old materials, and then my therapy practice around bringing in our unconscious shadows, bringing in the parts of ourselves that we've ostracized and pushed away, numbed out. All of these things are the same kind of dynamic happening in different ways. And so Filth Weaver orients to this through presence, through the container, whether it's the container of our bodies, the container of the space, the container of the atmosphere, the container of the cosmos, the cosmic womb. Whatever scale that we're working in, there's this container which feels also like womb energy, where we're filling it with so much love and presence and consciousness that those monsters, those outcast parts start to feel so held and appreciated and loved for the essence of who they are, not who they've had to survive, not who they've become through survival, but their essence, but then also who they've come through to survive, or who they've become to survive. So it's holding all of this in awareness, and then generating like generating from this, from a place of love and consciousness. So yeah, because we're working in this mythological dream soul realm, it's being conceptualized through that realm. So yeah, welcome to this space. I wanted to tell you another story about Filth Weaver, and so we're having some story time, so gather in, light your hearths, and I have my candle over here. This is a story of initiation across those many worlds that I mentioned before, like Aztec, Toltec, pre-colonial worlds, colonial worlds, and then also regenerating something from this womb, this space of primordial potency. Okay, so there was once a crafter, and they were in Morelia in Mexico, and this was in about 2013, and they had rented like a little apartment, furnished apartment to stay in across the way from their friend, in their own little furnished apartment for like $100 a month for a month. And they were they had some savings, and they were there kind of just going with the flow, making art, doing some collages, and they got this loteria deck. It's like Mexican bingo, and if you've seen the deck, the imagery is iconic. And there's this one card, El Diablito, the little devil. It looks like this little red devil with like little horns, a little tail with an arrow, and like a little pitchfork. And so the crafter is like feeling into the polarization of heaven and hell, of good and evil, reflecting on these ways that, like, how can you say something's good if something's good for one person, but then that same thing is horrible for another person? And so really like zooming out and questioning these stories, and like growing up Christian, and just playing around, wanting to create this story of the blue devil, and inspired by Krishna imagery of the blue Hindu god Krishna, gave it this maybe transcendental or like expanded sense, non-binary, non-duality sense. And then let's throw in a cake and candles and celebrate the Blue Devil's birthday. There's 5 candles somehow. And then this is very much like a flow of creativity where the story was like telling themselves through the crafter. And there were 5 candles, 5 flames. There's a little tassel coming off of the cake, And then they also made like a head or like neck adornment with 2 tassels on either side. And so there's a total of 5 tassels, 5 candles, the Blue Devil's birthday. There's this like plane, these different planes above the Blue Devil, and then they had to stop. They didn't have any yellow thread or golden thread to finish the candles, the flames on the candles. So they thought, I'll go to the craft store tomorrow and I'll finish lighting the candles tomorrow. And so that evening they went with their friend to have dinner with their friends in the plaza, the big plaza with like different restaurants. And across the way there's an old woman with a big golden yellow cone of thread who was winding up little mounds or spools and placing it in front of each person in the restaurant next door. And so the crafters said to their friends, like, who is this woman? I need some of that. She's answering my call. The dog's barking. She's answering my call. And the friend said, she's just a crazy lady, don't mind her. And I said, and the crafter said, no. So later, when dinner was finished, they went over and they got some of the thread and they finished the embroidery. But didn't finish the embroidery right away, but we won't get into that part of the story right now. But this was an initiation for the crafter because it was connecting through so many different layers of stories with their own lineage. And instead of going to explain all those different threads right now, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah. And so maybe I'll go into them another time later on. I'm gonna leave it there for now. So yeah, just to close out, these are some of the mythological origins that are being burst through and as Filth Weaver. And these stories change every time they're told, and they continue to expand and inhabit me in different ways. And as I inhabit myself and where I live in different ways. Right now I'm living with the lands of the Nooksack and Semiahmoo peoples and learning how to come into right relationship with these lands and peoples, and simultaneously reconnecting with my own ancestral lineages, Irish lineages, Swedish, and many more. So yeah, if this sparks any interest for you, if you can relate to this story, if it's calling to any part of your own mythological landscape, or if you want to start tapping into this kind of magic and medicine, then please be in touch with me.